So communication. What we don't want to have here is a failure to communicate. But communication platforms can be very different. This is when I hear that a more senior salesperson says, Troy, all these younger salespeople want to do is text. And my response is always, get good at texting. You have to meet your customers where they are. So let's talk about, as an overview, the communication preferences between the generations. Boomers tend to prefer, for the most part, personal in-person sales calls, and they prefer a voice-to-voice communication. Voice-to-voice communication being telephone calls. They like to talk on the phone. They like to meet with people face to face. And this shouldn't be revolutionary, but to some of the younger generations, this is very, very different from what they are comfortable with doing and what they're used to doing. So with you, when you're approaching a boomer, you need to be thinking about, first, approach by phone, set an in-person meeting. Gen X, again, we tend to straddle the fence. We tend to run the gamut. You will find a lot of Gen Xers who their primary preference is phone calls and meetings, and you will find Generation Xers probably on the tail end of Generation X where they're looking more for texting and that kind of thing. So we kind of straddle the gamut. So you got to be versatile. Millennials, this is where preferences really start to shift. Millennials tend to want to communicate through a keyboard, meaning they tend to want to communicate through texting, through email, and through other electronic means, instant messenger, that kind of thing. So you need to be versatile enough to understand those technologies and be good at those technologies. Gen Z, now it's when it gets really apparent. You've got to be proficient at texting and messaging apps. So what does that mean to us as salespeople? It means, as salespeople, we cannot pigeonhole ourselves in one method of communication. Now, let me underpin this a little bit. I have a client, I've talked to him about it before, and as a matter of fact, he just signed a new coaching agreement with me, so he's still a current client. I've been working with this guy for over 15 years now. He is the president. He's brought me into 3 different companies where he's been at the president. We've met. And if I were to call him every day for the next week and a half, I might or might not get a call back by the end of next week. If I were to send him an email today, I might get a response by Monday. If I were to pick up this here phone and text him right now, I'd probably have a response by the end of this webinar. Texting is his preferred platform. He's a boomer. Now, he's on the tail end of the boom generation, but he is a boomer. And the reason that I know that this is how he prefers to communicate is I've asked him. I said, bottom line, what is your preferred communication platform? He says, text me. Okay, good enough. I text with him. I've also got a new client that I just signed who's a Gen Z. She prefers phone calls. So there is no hard and fast rule, but when you are beginning a phone call, when you are beginning a dialogue with a prospect or a customer, my recommendation to you, kind of keep these guidelines in line, but be versatile enough to ask and then switch it up. Because here's the sales hack on this. When you assume someone's preferred platform, you make, you know what you make. Ask. Once you have initiated contact with this person by whatever means, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in prospecting. Once you have initiated contact, ask the question, what method would you prefer that I use to communicate? Take this question and bake it into the questions that you ask of your new customers and even of your existing customers.